Welcome back to another episode of Prime Time. Today's a big day because we've got our special guest on, Richard Kairouz, my father, former first grader, 12 total first grade games. But it's good to be back, Nick. We've been back a while. The show's been off.
First show, back in the studio, back in Australia. We've had a bit of time off, about 2-3 weeks. Bit of party, bit of holiday, travelling Europe.
Mm-hmm. Where was your favourite destination?
My favourite destination has to be the homeland, Lebanon.
Okay.
Doesn't get better than that. Mountains, beaches during the day, mountains up, hour drive away. Doesn't get better than that. What about yourself?
I was going to say I enjoyed the NBA Finals the most. Bouncing between Denver and Miami, getting to be on the court, interviewing some players after. That was the highlight for me. And then going to Wimbledon, just ticking Wimbledon off. A lot of flogs there in England. And actually, I will say London, the biggest overrated place in the world.
I hated London. It made me hate British people.
It's Melbourne with shitter weather and red telephone boxes. That's about it. But Dad, it's good to have you on. This is your first time on Prime Time. We reference you every week. You give in your tips every week.
Shit tips.
Do you understand what goes into being on camera? You're going to have to give your opinions out. You might piss off some people.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I do that all the time.
Okay, there you go. Okay, as each episode starts off, we've been off for a little while, but every week we start off with our fan question. This week's fan question comes from Greaves. Dad, what's the fan question?
Should Melbourne risk bringing Papenhuyzen back into first grade this season?
Should Melbourne risk bringing Papenhuyzen back this season?
Yes,
100%.
they should.
Yeah, 100% they should risk it because all year they've been not the most consistent side, but it looks like they're starting to get into form going into the finals, and they just look like they're one gear away. And Papenhuyzen is that spark that they don't have at the moment, especially like at fullback, that almost
X factor
that they don't have out the back when they're going wide. And Nick Meaney's done a top job filling in, but he's exactly right. He's just that X factor that they don't have. Him coming back into the finals could be massive for Melbourne.
I think 100% you bring him back. If he says he's healthy and Craig Bellamy's giving him the all clear with the Storm doctors, you bring him back in as soon as he says he's able to. If he has a good showing this week in reserve grade, which he's scheduled to come back into, him and Justin Olam playing against Ipswich Jets.
Yeah, he's scheduled to come back for the Sunshine Coast
Falcons.
The Sunshine Coast Falcons. They're up against the Ipswich Jets. Now imagine you're playing for the Ipswich Jets. Now we've got a bit of a vested interest in the Ipswich Jets. Picklebet is their main sponsor. We trained with them at the start of the year, know some of the boys that play there. They haven't had the best season, to be frank. But you're training on a Tuesday, you see the team list come out. You got to go up against a Clive Churchill medalist in Ryan Papenhuyzen and then Justin Olam in the centres. I'd be shitting myself if I was one of the centres.
I mean, realistically, Dad, as a coach, Ryan Papenhuyzen, how many minutes is he playing this week?
Yeah. You're going to try and give him as many minutes as possible. Like, you want him to come through, obviously, unscathed. So, obviously, they don't care about winning or losing. They just want him to come through the game unscathed. So
30 minutes, 60 minutes?
No,
you probably play at least a half of football.
Depends how much he could take, but 100%. Play a half of football. I don't think he's going to be... Yeah, he'll just have some rust.
Well, you can't play.
A game
but I'm saying you can't play at 50% because then you're just going to re-injure yourself. So he has to go full forward.
I don't think he plays a game in Queensland Cup and then he's right to go in first grade again. I think he's
How many games then?
He's going to have to do a couple of weeks in Queensland Cup before he goes, okay, I can play first grade. You got to think, what's his match fitness going to be like? How is he going to be in defence? He's just got to get the kinks out.
Well,
I think that'll take 2 to 3 weeks, and then he can slot straight back in right in time for finals. That'll be round 25.
Start of the season, they said he was coming back round 10. It's now round 20. So if he was supposed to be fit by round 10, surely there's been another 10-week period where he's just building up his fitness.
Regardless, it's great to have him back. He's had a long road to recovery. We've seen it all over social media.
And don't shit on Nick Meaney. He's done really well.
Who's shit on Nick Meaney?
You and Dad off camera were saying, he's been average. Like, he hasn't been that good. He doesn't have the X factor.
Did I say that off camera?
I think you said you said on camera Ryan Papenhuyzen provides more X factor.
Yeah, then Nick Meaney. Is that a wrong thing to say?
It's kind of taking a shit on him.
Is that a wrong thing to say?
Nick Meaney's done a great job in his absence. He's done a great job. But can they win the comp with Nick Meaney at fullback? No.
Okay. Exactly right. There you go. Okay. Each week we go through our team of the week. Nick, what was your team of the week this week?
My team of the week was the Melbourne Storm.
Okay.
Comfortably beating Parramatta Eels. Parramatta Eels are a good team. Yes, they're probably, in that race for the 8-9 spot. But still, if you're comfortably beating Parramatta, who's coming off a Mitch Moses stint in Origin, a lot of confidence. They played really well last week, Para.
Dylan Brown for a while.
Dylan Brown being out does hurt, but for you to beat a top 8 contender comfortably, they beat him by 30 points. You're one of the better teams in the comp, and it just shows you Melbourne, even without Papenhuyzen and some players out, they're still one of the better teams and are a danger to actually win the comp.
They're the only true, I think, competitors to Penrith to win the comp this year. If they're firing and playing good footy, they're the only team I could see that can kind of give them a run, and they're playing each other this week.
Everyone else has been
But
inconsistent.
that's who's my team of the week this week, and probably been my team of the week most weeks this season. The Penrith Panthers. Nathan Cleary kicked them to death this week. Jerome Luai is always looking sharp. They're just, I would say, unequivocally the favourites to be the premiership team this year. For me, I would say Nathan Cleary, head and shoulders above every half in the competition. Besides after that Origin stint, you could say Daly Cherry Evans, but at a club level, it's Nathan Cleary.
Going into the Sharks game, I gave Dad a call and said, Sharks are plus 16.5. Now, I'm going back to before I left overseas. Sharks are a great team. They're plus 16.5. Should I take that? He goes, nah, Sharks are playing shit and Penrith are too good.
16 points is a lot of points.
And they covered it with ease, though.
Yeah.
Like, Penrith killed them. They actually killed them.
Well, and that's why I'll continue to say, going into the finals, they're the team to beat. And
At this point in the season, should they still be the favourites to three-peat?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, name another contender that looks better than them at the moment in attack.
Back in our days, premierships were won by forward packs, and Penrith by far have the best forward pack in the competition, and that's why a lot of the other clubs are struggling, because they just don't have the forwards to match Penrith.
And besides Nathan Cleary being out, what injuries have they really had?
And they did well with him out. It's not like they didn't cope without him. They plugged holes. That's why Ivan Cleary's been the best coach, because they've just been able to find people for every scenario.
Like Zach Hoskins.
Yeah, where did he come from?
Tyrone Peachy is playing centre.
When Api Coruscant is gone, they just find these feelings, and it seems to work. And it looks like they'll have premiership success even after this year.
The only teams I think that are threatening to them are Rabbitohs when they're fully healthy, Latrell firing, and maybe the Storm. That's really it.
Okay, who was your player of the round?
Player of the round, sticking with the Storm, Jarome Hughes. Scored a try, 4 try assists and 4 line break assists. Now, as stat lines go, that's great. You get 4 try assists in a game, you're a quality half, against a good Parramatta team. Jarome Hughes is my player of the week.
And consistently been one of the better sevens in the comp.
100%.
Jarome Hughes doesn't really get the respect he deserves. Being a fullback that transitioned into a half, but he can play anywhere. Obviously, a very key player for Melbourne. My player of the week is Kalen Ponga. I think, Dad, you said ever since he got snubbed from Origin, he's been a different player this season. He's playing with some purpose. He's been the Knights' best consistently. We even were paying attention to him overseas. I love this try celebration for Try July.
A haircut.
Getting a nice fade. We got a nice one right before we came in Lebanon. So we respected that celebration. But again, 1 try, 2 line breakers, 6 tackle breaks. The guy's been an absolute freak. If they can continue this, he's going to get his coach re-signed.
Yeah. Where do you rank Ponga as a top 5 fullback in the game? Where do you say? I say he's number 2.
Behind who?
Latrell. I'll go Latrell.
That's very arguable.
Latrell, Ponga, Tedesco, Dylan Edwards. Who do you change there?
You've missed Tedesco.
Oh, and Reece Walsh. Maybe Reece Walsh is up
Tedesco?
there. Yeah, I said Tedesco 3. And I'd probably put Tedesco 5 and Reece Walsh 3.
I don't know. I'd say Kalen Ponga is up there.
Look, at the end of the day, I judge it by premierships. Penrith won the last 2 comps, so Edwards would...
What about Origins?
Yeah, but, like Origins, you're playing with the best players. You're playing with the best players.
If Ponga was on Penrith, that's a very unfair...
I think Queensland made a good decision in omitting Ponga for the first 2 games. And then he was asked to play in the 3rd game. He chose not to. And look at his club form. It's gone...
If I'm Newcastle, I'm
patch.
asking him not to play Origin again, because this is the best Kalen Ponga we've seen. Okay, the Bulldogs. Our Bulldogs have gone on an absolute signing spree the last 2 weeks. Just some of the names that they've signed. Takeaho on $500,000 a season for 2 years. They just signed Liam Knight, who played over the weekend. Blake Taft's just confirmed to sign. Jamin Salmon has confirmed he'll be there for the next 2 seasons. It looks like they're in the market for Connor Watson. It's a 3-club race there as well. So they're trying to make their mark. Is this a last-ditch effort from Phil Gould to save his job at the Bulldogs? Because let's be honest, if they don't perform next year with the signings that they've made, they also have Bronson Sherry coming in next year. They've got Stephen Crichton coming in next year. If they don't perform next season with these signings, is Phil Gould gone from the club?
I'd sack him anyways. Every club that he leaves, they do much better. Look at the Warriors; they're in great form at the moment.
Yeah,
Phil Gould isn't there anymore. Penrith Panthers are the best team of the last 4 or 5 years. Where was Phil Gould 10 years ago? It was at Penrith. So get rid of Phil Gould. The Bulldogs will be probably premiership favourites within the next 2-3 years.
If you look at some of the signings, though, do they make sense? Like Liam Knight, I like him as a front rower. I think that as an immediate switch, Great, and they need
Well, look,
forwards.
I
They
think
need a new crop of forwards.
That Luke Thompson's leaving. He's not going to be re-signed.
Freeing up some money too. What's he on, 800?
Yeah, so they needed a forward. So Takiyaho and Liam Knight, I do like. I mean, Liam Knight, I'm not the biggest fan of, but that's
Yeah, but
point.
when you say Takiyaho, like I feel like some of these signings are just coin flips and they're gambles from Feel Good. Takiyaho hasn't played in the NRL in 2 to 3 seasons. Hasn't even played much in the Super
He
League.
played last year.
He played last year. He left last year. But he's only played 5 games this year. He's had a history of injuries.
He's had serious knee injuries in the past.
It is like you're saying. It's a big gamble on a player to pay him probably premium money. You're not paying him.
$500,000.
It's premium money. It's a lot of money for a bloke.
But that's one of the gambles.
The bloke in the twilight of his career to come back. It might pay off, but if it doesn't pay off, Canterbury are going to be in a world of pain.
It's okay to gamble on 1 or 2 players. Remember when the Bulldogs did it with Kieran Foran and it didn't quite pay off because he didn't play that many games at the Bulldogs. But the Titans got their gamble out of him because he's been playing some footy there. Look at the gambles that they're making next season. Bronson Xerri been out of the game for 4 years. He's playing, okay? They're gambling on Stephen Crichton playing at fullback.
He hasn't had a lot of experience.
They're gambling on Blake Taff being his own player and playing consistent
Where's he gonna
fullback.
play?
Consistent footy. I don't know.
I think he's just a backup.
And now you're gambling on bringing Takiyaho back into the NRL. I mean, that's a multi from Feel Good. Well, that's not just 1 or 2 players. He's actually gambling a lot next season because look at how the Bulldogs are playing this season in an injury-riddled team. They're almost dead last.
Yeah, look, Canterbury don't have a lot of depth, and I think some of these players are being bought there to provide a bit of depth in case they do have injuries next year. Are some of these players going to be game changers? Are they marquee players? No. They're guys that can probably fill in, do a role like Toby Sexton's done this year. He's come in, he's played really well. They're losing quite a few players. The big thing for me is that, they just recently signed 2 players, senior players, Ryan Sutton and Fatila Mariner. And now now they've sort of said to them, you can start searching for another club.
How do you name someone the captain of your club at the start of the season and then by the end of the season say, hey, you can go and we don't want you anymore? Apparently, he raised some concerns to management. That was almost the catalyst for him to be getting booted. This is what I read.
Is that your role as captain to do that?
I don't know. And what kind of club are you if you... Yeah, I understand they were naming these cultural leaders and whatnot, but to name your club captain and then by the end of the season to say, yeah, you get the flick, that's not the Bulldogs.
No. I mean, but if you look at the signings, Jamin Salmon, weak-gutted dog. Great player, though. Great feeling player. Connor Watson, too many ACL
Allegedly,
injuries.
he hasn't been signed yet, yeah.
Takiyaho, ACL injuries. I think it's a great signing, but again, another gamble. Liam Knight, error guard. That's another questionable signing.
No one knows that.
Blake Taff, I think that's a safe signing as a backup fullback. Really, how can you fault that one? If someone goes down, Stephen Crichton, say he's not doing well.
Yeah, like that's it. Okay, yeah, there's some depth there, but I'm just saying it's a gamble next year for Feel Good. And I'll go out on a limb and say if they're not successful next season, and I'm saying borderline top eight, that's Feel Good's last role in an NRL club. No. I don't think anyone would want to touch him anymore. Mind you, he's already under fire today because he's come out and criticising Latrell Mitchell. The South CEO came out and said, I think we're getting a bit tired of Feel Good's criticism of other clubs. The guy has 1,000 opinions but can't help his own backyard. So I think this would be his last NRL club if they don't see some success. But that's the Bulldogs for you at the moment.
I mean, I'd want them to go well, so Feel Good, I hope you keep your job because Bulldogs top 8 next season.
I don't know. I guess we'll see.
The blowtorch will be on him.
Yeah.
Obviously on the club, first 8 games next year. But if it was me, I think Cameron Sorrello will go before Feel Good.
No way.
No. Give Cam. We love Cam. He's a gentleman.
Yeah, but that's the way it works.
Nah, Cam, keep striving. Keep striving. Okay, Knights have won 4 in a row. Let's go over this one. They haven't re-signed their coach yet, Adam O'Brien.
Well, why would you? The season's not over.
Okay, I'm just saying that after this little run of form, would you sign him for next season? Andrew Johns has come out and said he deserves another year. Give him another year. When is it okay to commit to coaches?
The same way you don't fire a coach after a shit patch of form. If they had lost 4 in a row, I wouldn't call for him to be fired. And the same way if they win 4 in a row, I'm not calling for him to be re-signed.
Okay, say he does get sacked at the end of the season. What's the NRL becoming? Is it you don't perform in a year, you go straight away?
No, he's been there for a while now.
Is there any other onus on player? I don't think he's been there for a consistent period of time where he's had a spine to work with
Yeah, he's been unlucky. Jaden Brayley's been injured. Mitchell Pearce was there, but he I think, had a bit of injuries and then kind of went to the Super League. Kalen Ponga's never been 100% healthy. They tried to move him to 5'8".
And he's had concussion issues.
But is Kalen Ponga's move to 5'8", was that his call? Because
it was directly his call.
If that's his call, then that's a massive blunder by him. Kalen Ponga's the best fullback. Why would you move him to the halves? Try to get knocked out even more.
Would you just wait till the end of the season, then make a decision on his career?
This is the problem. Why do you have to be rash in your decisions? He's been there 4 years. At least make the semis this year. If he doesn't make the semis, you've had 4 years, and maybe it's time to move on and go in a different direction.
But who do you sign as your coach?
And to be honest, guys, I wouldn't be taking advice from Andrew Johns.
Yeah.
You know? Andrew Johns makes a lot of comments. You know,
So
does Matt.
And Matty, you know, they were responsible for bringing Nathan Tinkler to the club. How did that work out? You know what I mean? So not too well.
But how are you supposed to know he's got no money in his
But mate, you know, you're gonna back people and then you ask to sack him. Like seriously, just wait till the end of the season, mate. There's coaches out there, and there's coaches that want to coach in the NRL. Just wait, be patient. If he makes the top 8, then obviously give him another chance.
If he makes the top 8, then you re-sign him for 1 to 2 more years.
Yeah, that's exactly right. 1 or 2 more seasons. That's it.
Even if he comes maybe like 9th and just misses out, judging by how many injuries he's had, I'd re-sign him.
You can weigh it up.
But you can wait till the end of the season when you have all the information.
Well, best of luck to Adam O'Brien. We hope you keep your job. It is a bloody tough gig being an NRL coach these days. The RLPA saga continues. Now,
it's been going on for about a month and a half.
This was going on while we were overseas. We were paying attention to it. And right now, it continues to go on. The players have continued to boycott the media before and after the game. This week, they covered up their jerseys with the tape. And I've got to say it worked because I saw a lot of people, a lot of cousins that were watching some games with us, saying, why are they covering up the jerseys for?
People that weren't aware of the situation were made aware by it because of the logo cover-up.
But the thing is, I don't think they're fully aware of what actually is going on because when you have people like Gordon Tallis and James Hooper just trying to deflect and say, oh, not every player knows what's going on and, you know, not every player is aware of the action that's taking place and the players are greedy and whatnot. Do you think the RLPA is doing a bad job in not actually disclosing what they want?
Well, in all honesty, I'm actually not completely aware of the situation. But any side that has Gordon Tallis and Michael Hooper on it, I'm going against them. So I'm on the players' side.
You don't want to be on their side.
If Michael Hooper's saying one thing, I'm jumping on the opposite side and screaming against him.
When did Gordon Tallis become a media sellout? I understand he works at Fox now and News Corp, but you were a player. What?
You're going against who you were.
Yeah. It's like...
It's crossing the picket fence. He's the person that's crossed the fence.
Well, even Brayton Astor, he's not too supportive of it either. So
yeah, I mean, but he's got a comfy job on NRL 360, and I don't mind Braith. I understand.
No, but I'm just saying they're mate. At the end of the day, the players are all going to stick together. You know, they've got to stay. They've got to stay solid, and hopefully get an outcome. You know, to this.
So, but what are the players asking for?
At the end of the day, look, there's a clear list on the RLPA website of what they want. They want an industrial relations professional to come in and address the 100 changes that Volandis and the NRL made. They made amendments to this bargaining agreement, and they said, here, take it or leave it. The rugby league players don't want that.
They're not operating in a very good faith way.
No, and they want a professional to come through. I think it's fairly reasonable to ask anyone that thinks rationally will go, okay, yeah, that seems fair. The NRL don't want to come to the table. I don't think Volandis is very happy now with every player now covering the jerseys. I got to say, it looked great. It looked like the players all come together. They got the tape all over the jerseys. The Bulldogs had the best cover up. They had the blue tape. It looked like it was camouflage into the jerseys.
I didn't notice it.
They probably got to address the issues if they're going to do it again next week because there was some slippage. It
some
started to come off a little bit. Maybe they wanted the trainer to come on and re-strap, but it probably just take too much time.
What if you put the sticky paint over the strapping? Does that make it stronger?
They've got to come up with a better solution because it will tear off during the games. But what's next for the rugby league players? You've done the media boycott. You've taped the NRL logo on the shorts now as well. They're covering up the shorts too. What's next? Where do you go from here? Do you go? You know, like okay, we're not going to play anymore. Or
I feel like you don't want to go full blown strike yet. Full-blown strike is the absolute end point. You don't want to, not play and then say, you know what, no more games are going to be played. You got to take one more drastic step before you go to the full-blown strike.
Do you do the climate protesters and everyone just get together on the Harbour Bridge and just stop traffic for a little while? What's the next move?
I mean, I would like to see all players collectively walk on the Harbour Bridge, stop traffic, and say we're not moving until we get our demands met.
glue your hands onto the field and say, "Oh, we're not playing until we move, until V'landys comes to the table." But I think it's fairly arrogant from Peter V'landys. And mind you, I got nothing against Peter V'landys. Please unban me from the ATC race clubs, but just get to the table. What's taking so long? I understand he's leaving Andrew Abdo to work it out, but it's dragging on to a point where can we just get a professional involved?
The only way for them to protest properly now is for them to hit him where it hurts, and that's to maybe contact Eddie Jones and get him to speak on behalf of the players.
Imagine that as a form of action. Everyone just get on the phone to Eddie Jones and see how much Rugby Australia would offer. V'landys would jump straight away.
He'll cowl straight away and say, "Hey, whatever you guys
take
want."
some of my salary.
Yeah.
I think Clint Newton's become the big target now. So a lot of people aren't too fond of Clint Newton at the moment.
I respect him. If you're prepared to take the brunt of the media outrage towards the players,
that's his
and
job.
I understand that's his job, but you're getting a lot of, I would say, but you're being misled about your character, and he's done a good job. I think he always contains himself when he has to deal with the Gordon Tallises and
But
the
you
Loopers.
think now as well, okay, people are saying, the big media companies, Gordon Tallis, Braithen Astor, they're the ones painting a bad picture. All these players have, big Instagram followings. There's a lot of sports pages that have big Instagram followings. How come they're not coming out and showcasing the other side of the argument?
I think they have been, not to a great extent, and they definitely should. I mean, it's not on the onus of each player to make their own argument.
Just as a way to combat the obviously big media attention that they're creating on the other side.
Yeah, it's pretty one-sided argument. They're all saying that the players are being greedy.
Yeah.
The players should get on with it.
I mean, I've seen some players put out say we're not being greedy at all. Like this is a very simple thing.
But the arguments that they've brought up are like, oh, this is the average player a pay of $400,000. It's gone up this amount. It's in line with what the AFL is. And then you look at codes overseas, I know they're much bigger, but the NBA, if you look at their payment structure to what revenue is, it's something like 50%. So again,
and they've had a couple strikes.
But I think what people have to understand, it's not around pay. It's not around. They're not asking for more pay. It's literally just these. They want that industrial relations professional,
which is what happens,
and address the whole bargaining agreement that the NRL laid out. So I guess we'll see where it ends up. It definitely is going to come to a head pretty soon because if they're going to continue to cover up the logo, it's pretty embarrassing for the NRL. But I hope it doesn't end in like an NBA-style lockout. But each week we do our NRL player head-to-head for the season. We've done some big ones in the past. We've done Cherry Evans up against Nathan Cleary. This week, we're going with fullbacks. Our NRL player head-to-head this week, Latrell Mitchell versus Clint Gutherson. Now, Nick, at this point in time, both these players on $950,000 a season.
That's where, okay, on face value, you say this is an easy Latrell Mitchell win.
Yeah.
But why would you compare these players? It's because they're both on $950,000 a season. That's very much a reason for comparison. Mm-hmm. Now, going through the stats, Clint Gutherson's played 19 games.
This season, yeah.
He's scored 16 tries. Latrell Mitchell's played 13 games, 9 tries. So they've both got a pretty similar strike rate in scoring, even though Latrell Mitchell's the bigger body and probably known for scoring.
But Latrell, I would say, not playing the amount of games again this season. There was a similar tale to last season, and he came back on board towards the semis, and that's where he actually showed his worth. But Clint Gutherson, when do you ever hear about a Clint Gutherson injury? You always hear he's the safest fullback in the comp. He's one of the best defensive fullbacks in the comp, and he's never injured. So I think bang for buck, where are you getting your $950K from?
I mean, 13 try assists for Gutherson, 9 try assists for Latrell. So same again, they're pretty similar in terms of their strike rate. Average run meters, who would you say is higher? Latrell?
I would say no. I would say Clint Gutherson, just knowingly, because Latrell is that lazy fullback that only ejects himself into the game when he needs to.
Latrell Mitchell, 125 run meters. 164 for Clint Gutherson. So Clint Gutherson averages 40 more run meters a game. Now, if you're saying Latrell Mitchell is a better player, you think that would show up in the stats. You think he'd be scoring many more tries. He'd have much more run meters and try assists. He doesn't though.
But who's more of a distraction to a defensive line?
Latrell.
Who's holding up a defensive line more?
I'm not saying Clint Gutherson's better. I will always say Latrell Mitchell's a 10 times better player because he offers more as an X factor.
For me, as a coach, I'd have Clint Gutherson every day of the week. He trains every session, plays every week. Latrell, he's
But
hard.
you can't deny. Can't deny that Latrell is a generational talent.
He's probably one of the best.
He's second coming of Greg Inglis. But I agree with you. At the end of the day, if you're a club and you want the most bang for your buck, and you want someone that's going to be there regularly throughout the season, and produce just as great a stats as you've seen this season, that's probably a great call.
Best ability is availability. That's where Gutherson. That's probably the only reason where Gutherson beats Latrell. But the same reason you want Papenhuyzen over Nick Meaney, you'd take Latrell over Clint Gutherson.
I'm not going to dog Latrell Mitt like that. I can't. And I like Clint Gutherson, but again, I'm going to say just on talent alone, Latrell Mitchell is the best fullback in the comp.
And a surprising stat, which I found, errors. Clint Gutherson's had 28 errors this year. Latrell Mitchell's only got 8.
I didn't know. I didn't think.
Well, Nicholas, if you're playing more games, obviously.
Yeah, you're going to be.
I think in 6 more games, is Latrell going to have 20 errors?
No, that's a lot of errors.
That's a lot of errors for Gutherson. You think he's safe? He's making a lot of errors.
I didn't
whether
see that
whether
in his
that be
game.
knock-ons or maybe forward passes. Latrell doesn't make many errors.
Latrell's always struggled with his fitness. It's not one of his, fortes.
That's what I say. If you could get him fit, he's probably the best fullback in the comp. And if he was fit and healthy for games 2 and 3, and Tedesco was questionable, Latrell's next in line at fullback.
There's a difference every time Latrell plays a game for New South Wales.
And for the Rabbitohs.
And he's been the difference for New South Wales and why they haven't won a series over the last 2 years. So, again, I don't often do this, and I often point to the stats. But with this one, I can make an exception and say Latrell's the best fullback on any given Sunday. And for this one, I'm going to go with Latrell. The stats this year say otherwise.
I'm taking Latrell. Gutherson?
I take Gutherson, like
That's
I said.
2-1, but Latrell wins.
I'm looking at the view from a coach. You're looking at the view from a fan. So
okay, there you go. Each week we go through our top 5. We've had some banger top 5s. It feels like we haven't done a top 5 in a long time.
Got a bit of a break.
But this week's top 5 is top 5 biggest free agents of all time.
Biggest free agent signings.
Okay, top 5 biggest free agent signings of all time. Starting with number 5, Lionel Messi to Inter Miami. Now, Lionel Messi is the greatest footballer of all time. That's undoubtedly.
It's him or Ronaldo. Most people say Messi at once, so you can say he's the GOAT.
This is the impact that he's had on Inter Miami so far. They went from 1 million followers to near 13 million followers.
On Instagram.
On Instagram. Okay, the massive social following. Their ticket prices have soared. You've got celebrities going to Inter Miami games now. You can see, we'll show the video. As soon as he comes off, people in America, the people in the stands are leaving the stadiums. He turned down near $1 billion from Saudi Arabia, right, to go to Miami, and it's 100% paid off. He's still shown that he's got a lot to give football, and we saw him at the World Cup and what he did at the world stage, and it's already paid off. He scored that game winner in his first game for Inter Miami. I think he's one of the best of all time, and it's one of the best football free agent signings.
Anytime you sign the greatest football player of all time, you're going to make this list. The only reason he's not higher is because it's so fresh and he hasn't had a chance to actually win any competitions, even though probably winning an MLS competition won't mean much.
When you guys were in Miami, you did that skit on Messi coming to Miami and asking. Most of these followers are coming from overseas anyway, so it's bringing a global.
To be fair, a lot of those people were on South Beach. In hindsight, we probably should have gone down to like Miami, maybe down to Woodward, and not just South Beach. We were getting a lot of people from Houston, maybe some Atlanta.
But ticket prices,
that's great.
Crowd attendance and Instagram following all skyrocketed, so that makes him easily top 5.
Okay.
Number 4, Shaquille O'Neal to the LA Lakers. He is known as the most dominant basketball player of all time. He made the NBA Finals with the Orlando Magic, was unsuccessful, and he was a free agent. He could have signed anywhere. For him to go to the biggest NBA franchise, the Lakers, and go there and not only just be the best player in the NBA, he won a regular season MVP, 3 straight Finals MVPs, and 3 straight championships. Everyone talks about Kobe Bryant as one of the greatest of all time. Shaquille O'Neal, by the numbers, is better than Kobe Bryant, and on these Lakers teams was the better player. So, really, Shaquille O'Neal as a free agent, easily top 5 biggest signings of all time.
Yeah, made the right decision leaving Orlando there, and I agree with you. Better than Kobe as a Laker. It's
unpopular to say, but it is.
Okay, number 3, I'm going with Sonny Bill Williams to the Roosters. Now, as a kid, we just remember just seeing the news of him at the airport leaving the Bulldogs, and we were shattered. But he goes over, plays rugby in France, plays rugby for the All Blacks, absolutely kills it, wins World Cups.
Improves as a player as well.
Improves as a player, improves his professionalism, comes back to the NRL, to the Roosters, changes the culture of the Roosters. It said he brought back professionalism, brought back a winning culture to the Roosters, changed the landscape of the Roosters, wins a comp with the Roosters.
Very first season
was probably robbed of a Clive Churchill medal. He
was robbed of a Clive Churchill medal that season. But to come back first season with a rookie coach, transform the culture and win the comp, you're one of the greatest free agents I think the NRL's ever seen. What NRL signing has been bigger than Sonny Bill? I can't think of one. Maybe Jonathan Thurston when he was young.
Jonathan Thurston to the Cowboys, possibly, yeah. But I agree. I think that was one of the biggest signings for the Roosters that led to a lot of success for the Roosters. The only thing that probably I'd say is the worst free agent signing is Stan signing Sonny Bill Williams. That's been terrible. He's a terrible commentator.
As a commentator, terrible free agent signing. But as a player, one of the greats.
Agreed.
At number 2, I'm going Tom Brady to the Buccaneers. No one really knew who the Buccaneers were. As an NFL team,
as a franchise,
you're going Patriots. You may be going the Rams, Pittsburgh Steelers. Buccaneers are an afterthought. Tom Brady, similar to Messi, is one of the greatest players of all time. He's the greatest football player of all time. So anytime he's signing with a team, it's going to make headlines. And then on top of that, wins a Super Bowl in his first season, wins Super Bowl MVP, one of the greatest signings ever, and it's shown by the way he was able to win his 7th ring.
Yeah, I mean, we saw him go up against Pat Mahomes. It was old versus young, and he still hung with him. And like I said, that was probably the worst decision in Bill Belichick's coaching career, letting go of Tom Brady at the peak of his powers, because he won another championship. He added to his ring.
And for me, he showed that Tampa Bay is actually a really nice area. I visited Tampa Bay strictly because Tom Brady had signed there.
Tampa Bay over Miami every day of the week. That is a beautiful place. Last one, number 1, we're going with LeBron James to Miami. LeBron James to the Miami Heat. This started the super team era in the NBA. And it was the most talked about thing in sports when LeBron James came out and said, I'm taking my talents to South Beach, teaming up with Dwayne Wade, teaming up with Chris Bosh. It definitely started a wave in the NBA, the super team era, where you saw the likes of Kevin Durant going to Golden State. You saw, Kawhi going to the Clippers. And this was the catalyst for it, and it led to a lot of success. It didn't lead to immediate success in terms of, yes, he went to a finals, but it led to 2 championships.
2 championships, 4 finals. And it's just the way he did it. The theatrics of announcing it on live television. Mm-hmm. You're the biggest and probably most important player ever in the NBA, bar Michael Jordan. For you to announce that you're going to Miami on live television, he broke the internet when social media wasn't as big as what it is now. And Miami, I think everyone knows them now strictly because of LeBron James. If you're a casual fan, Miami Heat have been made popular because of LeBron James.
Mm-hmm. There'll be a lot of Miami 6 jerseys.
I have one.
That were bought. Yeah, we've got multiple for sure. A lot of bandwagon Miami Heat fans. But that's our top 5. You can catch our top 5s at Picklebet over on Instagram and at Pickle Studios on TikTok as well. And make sure you're subscribing at the JBK Show. But Nick, in the AFL this week, we've been keeping tabs on all sports while we're away. It's finally good to be back. But Collingwood have been doing all right while we've been gone.
They've been doing all right. Unlucky last weekend. Every time we've said it, you go up in a derby against Carlton, it's going to be a tough game. So they did lose in a close one. But Carlton are one of the form teams of the competition. Mm. Them and GWS have each won about 4 or 5 games in a row. But don't let that deter you. Mm-hmm. Collingwood are still going to win the flag. They've gone up against Hawthorn this week at the MCG. Nice Saturday evening game.
8 points clear of second.
They're 8 points clear of second at the moment. But let's continue to build on that. We're not stopping there. Collingwood this week, let's take him to win by 30. Nick Dacos had a quiet game last week, so expect him to rebound. I don't know if you guys know this. Collingwood haven't lost 2 games in a row all season.
That's massive.
So that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen this week. Take Collingwood 30 plus. Nick Dacos 30 plus disposals. It's easy money, and it's just great being a Collingwood fan. I mean, we're getting to the business end of the season now, so Collingwood, this is the time to shine.
That's been your bet of the year. Dacos into Collingwood wins. Also AFL news. I don't know if you saw. Buddy Franklin announces retirement.
One of the GOATs retiring.
Came out of nowhere though.
I mean, he did his calf injury. It's been a lingering calf injury, so I think he just said, I've had enough. I'm not going to try and rehab this.
The calf injuries have been the demise of a lot of players this year. I mean, Latrell getting ruled out of New South Wales. Okay, calf injury. Sam Kerr at the start of the Women's World Cup, she got ruled out with a calf injury. Now it's taken Buddy Franklin. I mean, they've got to get on top of this. I don't know if we've got some overseas specialists for calf injuries that we've got to start sending players to. But no, he's a great at the game. We watched him win flags for Sydney and Hawthorn.
He never won one.
He never won with Sydney.
Made 2 grand finals, maybe 3 grand finals. Yeah.
You're kidding.
Hasn't won one. He's lost, I think, the
three grand finals with Sydney. But I still think groundbreaking 9-year deal that he signed back in 2014. For him to be able to
been replicated that much since.
He's probably the only player to do it, and he's probably the only one that can earn it because he's the greatest full forward of all time. He's one of the greatest goal scorers, and if you're Sydney, you got your money's worth because you made 3 grand finals, and he, kicked that 1000th goal at the SCG.
Yeah, where the fans stormed there. That's a memory that they will never forget. But thank you, Buddy Franklin, for that. Let's go through our tips and picks of the week, starting with this Thursday.
It's good to have Dad in studio.
It's good to have Dad in studio for the tips. We've got the Roosters versus Manly at the SCG. Dad, who do you have?
Look, I think Rooster season's done, so I'm tipping Manly. They've still got a lot more to play for. The Roosters have been very, very clunky this year.
Apparently, mathematically, this has been going around on social media. The Roosters are done.
They're not
They
done.
can't make the top 8.
They can make the top 8, but obviously they need other results to
Do
go
they have
their
a
way.
harder run home? Why is everyone riding them off all of a sudden?
I haven't seen that.
That's why, with the talk that's been going on this week, Tedesco came out and addressed it. He goes, we haven't been performing to what we're capable of. They have the roster to. I'm taking the Roosters this week.
I'm taking the Roosters as well. I just don't think Manly are that good. You watched them last week. They struggled. Yes, they won, but they struggled. So they're not a good team.
And without Turbo, it's just like they're phoning it in. They got no, like Ruben Garrick at fullback. He's not going to be a game breaker. You know what I mean? So I think the Roosters have more talent across the park. They should win this week.
For me, look, everybody goes on about Tommy Trebojevic Turbo, but it's his brother,
Jake.
When he played that last State Origin game, that was the difference between the two teams. And him playing for Manly, his defence around the middle, you could see when he had to come off against Cronulla, they came back in that last 15 minutes. The Roosters, mate, honestly, you talk about their competition wins. When they won the comp, they had Sonny Bill and they had Cooper Cronk.
They've had star-started lineups.
Yeah, look.
And this isn't a star-started lineup. I know you got the Butcher brothers in the second row, and not knocking the Butcher brothers.
Injured.
They've been very unlucky with injuries over the last
They're not as
2
dominant
years.
anymore.
Okay, the Titans or the Warriors?
Warriors are in good form, and I know Warriors fans get up me for not tipping them, but I'm taking the Titans. I think they're a better team. I think they got more talent, and because the game's in the Gold Coast, I'll take the Titans.
I'm taking the Warriors at Seabus. What are you taking?
I'm going the Titans.
Titans.
They played really well last week against the Cowboys. They play an excellent brand of football.
They just can't defend.
Yeah, their defence is tough, but Kieran Foran playing probably the best football
Are
I've
they
ever
in
seen
finals contention at all, the Gold Coast Titans?
No.
No, that's why I'm taking the Warriors again. More to play for. Panthers versus the Melbourne Storm. This is, I think, the game of the week.
I still think Panthers have more talent and are a better team. If the game was in Melbourne, I may have tipped Melbourne. It's one of the few times in the year that I'll tip against Melbourne. I'll take Penrith in a very close one.
I think we're all taking Penrith here. I think, again, we just think they're a class above. No Papenhuyzen back into at the Sunshine Coast this week.
I think Safa Solomona comes back for Melbourne this week, though. So that's a big in.
I just think Penrith will be too good with the ball and too strong up front in the forward pack.
Too big, too strong, Penrith.
There you go. Cowboys or the Broncos?
The game's in Townsville. Cowboys do have the Broncos number. They usually keep it close. Mm-hmm. But the Broncos are the better team. Reece Walsh, better fullback. They got better halves. So I'll take the Broncos.
I'm taking Brisbane as well. Again, with Reece Walsh firing back to his best. Brisbane being the better team. And Cowboys just being overly inconsistent this season. They just had Val Holmes get suspended for
that's a big loss.
which I think is a massive loss. But he's been coming out of the line trying to put a shot on. He's been sin bin 2 weeks in a row. He'd probably deserve it. But again, I'm taking the Broncos.
Yeah, Broncos are playing a great brand of football, and they'll continue to win.
Okay, the Dolphins or the Knights?
This game's in Perth, so there's no home ground advantage for anybody. I think Newcastle, with 4 wins in a row, in better form, and a top 8 spot on the line, I'll take Kalen Ponga and the Knights.
Top 8 on the line? You taking the Knights?
I'm taking the Knights. I think the Dolphins are the biggest overachievers in the competition. I watched them play against the Bulldogs. They were terrible. That was probably one of the lowest games I've had.
Wayne Bennett
I was
came
forced
out
to watch during this. Seriously, the attack was so clunky. I don't know whether the field would look like it was a bit smaller, but it was one of the lowest games I had to watch.
Of course they're overachievers. Wayne Bennett came out in that press conference in that game, which they should have won. Okay,
of course.
They missed the goal kick. And I think they're head and shoulders above the Bulldogs. But he came out and said, we weren't supposed to win a game all season. So, again, I'm happy with the roster that they have.
That's a coward's response.
But no, he's just playing the media, and that's what Wayne Bennett does. But with the roster that they've had, yes, they've had to have overachieved.
They've overachieved, but you still think, okay, once you're in a certain position in the season, you can continue to play
I agree.
But
for that reason, I'm taking Newcastle as well because they have a lot more to play for as well. They're playing for their coach too, mind you. But, yeah, I'll take Newcastle as well. But I'd be pleased if I was the Dolphins, regardless.
No, you still want to make the 8, especially when you had the opportunity to make it.
Nicholas, they won't be making the 8.
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying that you still
they won't
want
be
to,
making
if you're in
the
a
8.
position
Okay.
to.
What about the Rabbitohs or the Sharks?
Well, I was a big Sharks fan prior to leaving overseas. And now that William Kennedy's injured, they got no fullback.
Looks like they might be moving Nico Hines to fullback.
I think
no, that's not. No, they've moved
Connor Tracy
to fullback. They might change that. But Connor Tracy will be a good fullback. But they're just not. There's something not going right at the Sharks.
Latrell Mitchell being back for the Rabbitohs, I'm probably tipping them for the rest of the season.
I'll take
the Rabbits
every game this season. I think the Rabbits are going to build enough momentum going into the finals where they're going to be the premiership threat to the Penrith Panthers. And I'll call it from here. We'll clip this up. It's going to be a Penrith Panthers versus South Sydney grand final. And they're going to go in off the back of Latrell. So I'm going South there as well. Dad, you're taking Souths as well. Parramatta or the Dragons?
Again, Dragons are a woeful team. I watched them last week. They're not very good. They don't want to play. They've already mailed in their season. So Parramatta, with their finals hopes still on the line as well. Dylan Brown returning as well. I'm taking Parramatta.
If no one was going to the end of season awards for the Dragons last year, who's going to the end of season awards this year? It doesn't look like anyone's going to be there anymore. Ben Hunt doesn't want to be there. Exactly like you said, they're a woeful team to watch. I'm going Parramatta as well, and I hope this kickstarts Parramatta's run to the 8. They're still alive. I know they're pushing 9th at the moment.
Actually, I will shout out Zach Lomax. He's been playing well. He had a good game on the weekend.
Yeah, no, he's a freak.
Who are you taking, Dad? Para or the Dragons?
I've got to take Parramatta as well. The Eels.
Yeah. Too much on the line.
Too much on the line for sure. Okay, and last game of the round, Bulldogs have the bye. The last game, the Raiders or the Wooden Spooners, the Tigers.
I will never tip the Tigers. I say it every week. They never deserve to be tipped. They're the worst team. And they're coached probably by the worst coaching staff in the NRL at the moment.
Okay.
So I'm going to take the Raiders. The Raiders were disappointing last week. I don't know how they lost, but I'll still take the Raiders.
Dad, you're taking the Tigers?
Yeah, look, I'm not impressed by the Raiders. I know they put a whole string of games together and won, but there's just something not right at Canberra. I just don't. Look, they're going to be in the semis. They'll probably just fall out the back door. I'm taking the
if you're the
Tigers for an
Raiders,
upset.
if you're the Raiders and you go to the back door this year, are you happy anymore? Like Ricky Stewart's been there for near a decade now.
It's better than not making the 8.
No, I agree, but it's like, you know, they made the grand final a few years ago, and it just looks like they've just been lackluster or just been in limbo since. When is it time to part ways with a coach that's been there for a long period of time?
Until he's not making the 8 and not winning. If he's consistently making the 8, you just wait for him to have a better side where he can coach them to a final.
Well, I've got the Raiders there as well. I just think they're going to be too good for the Tigers. The Tigers, when you think at the start of the season and how confident they were going into it, bringing Tim Sheens back.
I tipped them for 2 rounds.
And they're just going to be wooden spooners. It's back to the same. You got Robbie Farah putting his hand up to be the GM. It looks like Benji Marshall's all but already the coach anyway. It's a sad state of affairs. I just feel sorry for Happy Coruscant because he doesn't.
Well, he's injured now, so he's not playing, so he doesn't care.
No, he's back.
He's back.
Yeah, he's back. Yeah, and look, he just re-signed again for another couple of years. So, look, there's some positive signs there for the Tigers. Scott Fulton is there now. He's made some signings. Like I said, but at the end of the day, you need a top-class coach, and I don't think the Tigers have got...
Fulton's the reason they got the Fainu brothers coming along. So, I mean, hopefully that'll be good signings for him.
There's a possibility that...
Best of luck to him. Who performs
possibility that Jaden O'Sullivan might be going to the Tigers as well.
Yeah, I read that.
From the Dolphins?
No, from the Dragons.
The Dragons.
Oh,
yeah. And they're also making a play for Connor Watson, but I don't know if he wants to go there either. But I guess we'll see. Well, that brings our tips and picks to a wrap. Make sure you keep an eye on those because at the end of the season, the loser has to get a full body wax on camera for content. We got laser done for when we went overseas.
The hair's gone back.
The hair is pretty much back and
full body.
It might be painful. It'll be a 40-year-old virgin wax. So keep up to date. Nick's in the lead right now on 98. I'm on 91. Dad, you're at 88. A lot to catch up.
I got to
not much between us.
Yeah.
We got to re-update those scores.
Okay, and to wrap, we'll look over to international sports like we do each prime time. The FIFA Women's World Cup. Nick, you've been watching.
I haven't watched.
You didn't watch the Australia game recently? They
won
4-0.
I saw they won 4-0. Sam Kerr kicked a couple goals.
No, she didn't.
She didn't kick a goal. Oh.
She didn't play.
I thought she was the greatest.
She was on the bench. They thought she might come on.
Oh, okay. No. Well, I haven't been watching, no.
Well, we'll probably tune in around finals.
Okay.
We'll see who wins the final. But we're there for the men's. Okay, we'll just go into the next. Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy gone from ESPN call teams. They went on a massive sacking spree, ESPN. It wasn't just these guys. Jalen Rose got sacked.
Well, that was their signature calling team for the NBA Finals. You think, like, you're not scrapping your A team going into the next season.
They're being replaced by Coach Doc Rivers, and And Doris Burke, who's the go-to sideline commentator.
Who's letting Doc Rivers near a microphone? He's got the worst voice ever. He's got the ashiest voice ever. He's a career pack-a-day smoker.
It sounds like the only person they really did keep was Stephen A. Smith, ESPN. Everyone seems to have got the flick. It looks like they're also making a play for Shannon Sharp. The media landscape in the US is changing massively because they just had that big money deal for Pat McAfee to come through.
So he's the reason they're firing
He must be the reason why they're laying off anyone. He actually came out and said, I didn't get to meet a lot of these people, and it's sad to see a lot of them go. But, I mean, new media seems to be taking over, and it's the same in Australia. I don't know if you saw Willie Mason have a good slight...
Anthony Griffin,
Anthony Griffin being on Fox Sports commentary. He goes, I had to watch the game on mute because I'm sorry, I can't listen to Anthony Griffin call a game. And where are they getting these guys from? Who's the one authorising giving Anthony Griffin a microphone for a game? I understand he's an experienced coach, but there's got to be more talent. And it looks like there is. With Pat McAfee signing in ESPN, you've got all these podcasts. If you look at Bloke in a Bar and what he's doing on a sporting landscape as well, you got the Levels guys. New media is the way to go, and that's what we're doing here at Picklebet and at Prime Time as well.
I'm just saying.
And in Pickle Studios.
Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, I found them annoying.
Yeah.
But if you're going to fire them, get someone that's, more exciting. Doc Rivers, the guy can't speak. He doesn't. I mean, okay. Doc Rivers or Darren Lockyer? Who's got a worse commentary voice?
I'd have to say Darren just because I know it more. Just because I know it more. And I only
when Darren Lockyer talks on TV, it's quite annoying. Yeah. To have to listen to that, yeah.
That's a great pass.
But we respect what he's done for the game.
I'm just saying,
and he's a quality player.
If you can't project yourself with a loud voice, because I think if Doc Rivers or Darren Lockyer were to speak, a lot of people say that with
presidential candidates as well. If you can't speak, you're never going to get voted for president. That's why that RFK, that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., they say he'll never be president because he can't talk. He talks like a heroin addict. He's got that speech impediment, but apparently it'll cancel him out. So you have to be able to talk and present if you're going to be in these positions.
I'm actually kind of interested to see how Doc Rivers will go.
I guess we'll see. And last but not least, the EPL is back in 2 weeks. We did a tour of ourselves. We didn't get to catch any Premier League games, but we got to see Tottenham's facility. We saw Arsenal's facility. We went to Chelsea's facility.
And we'll be making an announcement soon on which team will be back in for the season.
We will. We'll be making an announcement on Prime Time and our socials. So make sure you stay tuned to @Picklebet on socials to see.
We've done the tour of the facilities. We've assessed each one's facility and
going into
where
the
we're going to support.
We're going to be letting you know which Premier League team we're supporting because it became a matter of who do these guys support? We just seem to be shitting on every club. No, we do support a team and it'll be coming to light very soon. So keep an eye out on that. That's a wrap for the first Prime Time back. We're a little bit rusty. But it's good to be back in the studio. Dad, thanks you for being here as a special guest. Get used to it. Going into the finals, we'll have Richard Kairouz here giving his tips live and in the flesh. Nick, thank you for being beside me. That's a wrap for Prime Time. Back to you in the studio.